Despite me playing Animal Crossing New Horizons since launch, there's one thing that I'm actually terrified of within the game: the custom code tool. I'm not an artsy person, and the limits of my creativity extend to drawing some simple cartoon frogs when I'm bored. In Animal Crossing, this means that I normally look around the internet to find the right custom codes for my islands. But for my cottagecore island, when I went looking for a simple sycamore leaf design to use for my flag, I couldn't find one. And after many hours of searching, I realized I was going to have to make one for myself, and that thought terrified me. So how does someone who doesn't make custom codes make a pretty flag for their island? Is it even possible for someone who has absolutely no idea how to design a custom code in Animal Crossing to make something they're proud of? I was about to find out. And as you can see, the colors are kind of everywhere. I think the general shape of this is right. The colors I haven't touched since I tried to make this flag, which would have been, goodness knows, maybe like 2 or 3 years ago. So the plan for today is to try and fix this. Let's have a look then and see what we can do. When making a custom code, there are 3 sliders that you need to pay attention to for each color: hue, vividness, and brightness. All of these sliders need to be moved to make the color you want, and this is where I was getting confused with where to start. To explain each of these sliders simply, hue is what sets the color vein that your color will be in. Vividness is the saturation levels of the color, so if you want your color to be richer, you push your vividness to the right, and if you want there to be less color there, you push the slider to the left. Brightness then lightens or darkens the color that you have chosen. For me, I was working with a leaf, so I knew that I was mostly working with green colors, but knowing how each of these sliders work is something that I didn't know ahead of going into this. But having a starting point of a green that I liked from the original design was massively helpful when it came to designing this flag. Okay, so don't start messing things up here, Fairy. The ultimate goal with this flag was to create something which looked like a 3D leaf and had realistic elements to it. But because you're limited in the number of colors you can use on a custom code, I was worried I was going to need too many greens to get the effect I wanted. Only time would tell though if I would run out of colors. One thing I did manage to clarify was that you can't move any of the colours on the top bar around. This would have been really helpful for me as I knew I wanted to keep the colours that I had used for the banner at the top and the bottom of the flag, but I couldn't tell which colours were being used for the different parts of the leaf, so I didn't know which ones to overwrite and which ones to leave. Fortunately, after a little bit of work, I managed to move the banner colours out of the way so I could just focus on the leaf itself. I also made 2 bright pinks that I knew weren't going to be used in the design, and doing this became a lifesaver for me in ways that I never thought they would. So then what we've got are the greens. So we need to sort the greens out and then we are basically there. So this one needs to change. And I kind of feel like I need something that may be a little bit like that. But I think generally what I need to do is work within the confines of what I've already got, and then change the colors out from there. There's different ways to do codes and I really struggle with them, but I'm trying to do like 1 or 2 per island just so I get a sense of what works and what doesn't. And why not? Why not, I say? Sometimes you just need to do that sort of thing. Suddenly I was reminded of a lesson I had from school. I remember my art teacher in secondary school teaching us about light sources and how important they were to make your artwork more realistic. The way we were taught to do this was to draw an arrow in the corner of the work we were making so that you always knew where the light was coming from. The idea being that the closer you are towards the lighter the colour you need there. In order to do this, I just used the pinks that I wasn't going to use anywhere else, and I marked the corner where my light source was going to be, and this was really helpful for making the code more realistic. From there, it was then a matter of working out how I was going to tackle using the right colours for each section of the leaf to make things more realistic. I think if I start working out where these veins need to go, that might help. Because then at least I can try and finagle the colours in so that it makes a little bit more sense. But we'll see where it all ends up. Like that. Something like that, I think. Again, this is just for shape so I can see where those veins are. And then we should be able to make something that looks a little bit better. A lot of the custom code design was then me arguing with the colours and trying to work out which colours I actually needed. But after making 3 different greens that worked together, I was starting to get a hang of how the sliders worked, and gradually as I became more comfortable, I was able to start seeing where one colour was too yellow or too blue, and this made it easier for me to see how I needed to change the colours to get the shades I wanted. Is that just me that thinks this green here, like I'll put a larger dot in the middle? Is that green too bright? It feels like it is. What is wrong with that one in comparison? It's within the same vein. Oh no, it's still one this way. That's why. There we go. We will get there. Goodness me. I also started to realise that the colour I had chosen for the veins was getting in the way and stopping me from picking a shade that worked with the rest of the leaf. So I ended up changing this colour too and picking something which fits in more naturally to the other colours I'd already selected. At least as far as I know, it's not the same green. That's the same green as that one. Great. Okay, so we're making that a little bit lighter then. And then we can try and work with that one. But is that too light? That's too light. So if I take the vividness down, that might be better. Okay, so the vividness needs to be round about there. But then it still doesn't look right. Ugh. Colors. Colors are hard. Maybe I need to tone the green down. Okay, so maybe that one and then take the vividness back up. No, vividness down. Back to about there. Brightness comes down. That's better. So I think that one is the right colorway for that. We're going to ignore the fact that it doesn't look right in the actual middle for now. We'll get there. We'll make it look right in a moment. Is coloring over everything so that it's one base color, and then that will make it easier for me to go from there. That's what I probably should have started with. Why did I not do that in the first place? Right. Let's do this then. We will color everything this color here. So then I can see everything. With a single base color down in the main section and a clear vein for me to work on, I was then able to start dotting in each of the shades of green that I wanted. I had my light source on the side and a few different shades to work with, so it became a case of dotting each color in one step at a time to get the look I wanted. To make sure I was getting a code which would look right in the end, I wasn't focusing on the pixel image that you see right in front of you. Looking at the canvas on the left is more important. How your code presents here is how it will look at the end. So watching each pixel being placed on the canvas made it easier for me to see which colors I was placing didn't work with the design I was placing. I then found myself in a position which I never thought I would get into, working on color shades based on what I already had. Because each slider works on a notch system, you can count the number of times you move the slider in either direction to copy colors over. Copying the colors into a new free slot allowed me to then easily change the vividness and the brightness sliders to get a new lighter shade, which I could then use as a highlight color. The only problem with this is that you end up sounding like you're performing a dance routine to a 90s pop song. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Brightness. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then from here, I need the brightness to come up a teeny bit, but only a little bit. And then the vividness, I want to come down again. And then push up the brightness a little bit more. That might be better. Let's try that one then. So we've now got the lighter green in place. So if I then start dragging down the color, that might work better. I think I'm getting at least the rough shape right. It's just everything else right now is not looking too hot. I mean, I already had the rough shape. It's the colors. It's the colors that I have no idea how to do. So this is a bit different than the last time I tried to design a flag, which was me trying to make like a swirly lollipop. And I could not see the placement of each of the pixels to make the swirl. This time I had a generator to make the rough shape. And it's then the colors in between that I was like, this doesn't look right. And I don't know how to make it look right. I just wanted to try it and see like if I could make something that looked reasonably okay. It's going to look like it does on the canvas. Okay. Yeah, so that color is then too light. That's fine. So I need to darken that down. So that is that one. So the vividness is okay, but if I bring the brightness down, is that going to be identical to one of the other colors? No, that's not going to be identical to that. But if I bring it down again, it's going to be basically invisible. But maybe that's the point. Vividness comes down. Brightness needs to go down a bit. I think within there. No. And then bring this up. Bring that down. No, that's not right. I'm trying. I'm trying. Okay. We'll get there. Then turn down the vividness. Turn down the vividness. Okay. Okay. There. 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 That's right. No. Turn that down. That looks better. Too dark. There. I think that's it. Did I just get it? There you go. Okay. I think we've got that color then. That might be one corner then done of this. Now I've got to do the others when code making gets intense. I know this is like another level of Animal Crossing drama here where it's like, wait, once more. Where are we going with this? This is worse than villager hunting, I think. Just me trying to be like, wait, what? With one corner of the leaf done and another 3 sections to go, I finally had all of the colors I needed in place. I started going over each section with the green that I knew was too light and that I wasn't going to use as the base color to reset each section individually so that I knew where each green shade was going to be dotted around in each section to blend in each part of the leaf. But I was focused on one thing, because I would love to be able to say on my own island tour when I finally get around to doing that I made my own flag. I really want to be able to say that. I just want that moment where I can say I did a thing. And I'm really proud of myself for actually trying it. Right, so this needs to darken down a little bit on this inner edge. And then I think it will be okay. I feel like this is working out well. What do you guys think? Now that I've just started playing around with the color and just dragging in some of the extras, I think that's starting to melt in a little bit more and not look quite as flat. Given that I'm not a custom code designer, I think, she says optimistically, we might have something here. As we were closing in on getting halfway through the flag, I realised just how intensely focused I'd become on designing the flag. Every single pixel mattered as I was placing the colour, so constantly checking back and forth with the easel on the left in the main screen was becoming my norm, and I was starting to get a bit overwhelmed with everything I was doing with the flag. But despite this, it felt like I was actually making progress towards my goal. I feel like another level of stress now. Is this what it's like making custom codes? Like, do you guys who make custom codes, do you feel like there's like this intense pressure and stress on the inside of you when you're trying to do this and you're just glaring at it like, okay, you are going to work and I'm just going to do one pixel at a time until it finally cooperates with what I have in mind. At first, after a while, you get adjusted and it's fine. The first 10 to 20 are insanely hard. You done like 3? The third section started well. I had my base colour down when I was reminded that I was going to need lighter colours on the edge of the leaf where my light source was supposed to be. This would have been fine until I realised one crucial thing which was going to be a problem. I hate to say this, I'm going to need another green. I'm going to need another green. The solution to this was to overwrite the green I was using as a base colour to dot all over with the pink that I'd used to make the arrow. This at least gave me a completely different colour from anything else I was looking at. I'd seen too many different greens at this point and I was just hoping to finish my flag quickly without too many more issues. And then I went back to singing pop songs again to get the right green that I needed for the new lightest shade. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. So that's now the same color as that. So now it's just got to be working out where everything goes from there and we'll get there. That looks about right where I've played with that. Like, that ends up being too yellow. That's too much. That is kind of there. That is kind of there, but not quite. So if I bring that down one more, that's on the darker side of it, which looks better. But if I bring this down, that ends up being too blue. So it's got to be more this side. And then... Oh, that works. I think I just accidentally found it. If I want some lighter shades, it needs to be there-ish. That's too light. So this bit here needs to be a bit lighter. And then this area in here needs to be darker to bring it down. That's better. After everything we'd been through to get to the right point with colors and playing around with getting each pixel in the right place on the rest of the flag, it came down to one last thing which needed to be done: getting the final section right. With everything in place, all that needed to be done was to take everything we'd learnt from all of the other sections and just place the last few dots to finish off the flag. All of the concentration I had to try and pick the right colour for each pixel was coming into play, and I knew I was moments away from finishing the flag. We had gone back and forth, double checking light sources, reworking multiple colours to make sure we had every shade of green I needed, and it all came down to this: could I place the last few pixels without ruining everything we'd worked for over 2 hours? And then if I bring a darker colour there to break that up, maybe not that dark, maybe that, then that, and that one. I think I just did a leaf. I think I managed to do it. And I didn't cry. So that's what it looked like before. That is the original leaf that I was working with. That one there is what we had. I think I actually managed to make a pretty leaf, because that was a mess. So we've gone from that to this. That's so much better. After many hours of searching for codes and years of putting off designing a flag because I was too scared to work with the custom code tool, I finally had an island flag I was proud of on my cottage core island. Seeing it replace my old one was a huge deal, as I could see how much more detail went into it and how much better it looked than the one I had before. It suddenly hit me just how much I'd put in, and all I could say was one thing to the community of people who play Animal Crossing who are too afraid of touching the design tools and instead go looking for codes online. I just made a custom code flag that's based on a sycamore leaf design, and I am not an arty person at all. I have no art skills, I have no design skills, I can't do art. And with a little bit of suggestions from people in the chat, I made that. Anyone that thinks you can't do custom codes, that is someone who can't make custom codes. I don't know how I managed to make that flag. Did I become a person who's going to make custom codes more regularly? No. I'm still frightened of the tools themselves, but this process made me realise that actually they aren't as hard to use as I thought they were. Would I design another flag for an island in the future? I would. I think making your own flag is a really good way of adding a personal touch to your island, and it gives you a real sense of pride in the things that you make. It was a long process, but it was definitely worth it. And if you're interested in seeing the full version of this flag coming together, you should check out this video next, which shows you everything that I'd learnt during the process of making this flag. And I'll see you over there.